All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Remodelers on the Rise. As you're coming along, if you want to click the like button, maybe even comment. Today, the format of the show is 10 quick things from the past week. 10 quick things from the past week. Nothing too earth shattering. Um, I have been missing a few of these episodes. We try to do them Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we've been a little hit or miss over the last 5 or 6 weeks. And frankly, I was kind of interested, um, in maybe not doing it today. I had several meetings kind of get rescheduled today. Clients that needed to reschedule. I had kind of a wide open day. I'm actually working from the house we recently moved into, and I just wanted to do some strategic work. And then Bailey, my marketing director, said, "Nope, you are doing the show today. We need to create some new content. We need to be consistent with our podcast and publishing the podcast. Some of people are expecting you on Tuesdays and Thursdays because you've announced that." So here I am. We're going to do it. Sometimes you got to push through and make sure, above all else, that you're consistent. Consistent marketing, consistent employee management, consistent communication with clients. Consistency is a huge key to success in business and, dare I say, health and life and all of that. So, 10 quick things. Number one, I review. So these are just 10 things from the last week that I've kind of experienced. Number one is I reviewed a client's 2022 business budget. Here we are on October the 19th, and I've got some clients that are already prepping and thinking about and planning and budgeting for next year. Now, the reason that he is tackling this is because he is looking to make a hire in his business. He currently has a very, very part-time office manager, and he's looking to hire a full-time office manager. I don't know if you know much about numbers, but a full-time office manager costs a lot more than a very, very part-time office manager. And if you have more overhead expense, chances are you're going to need to either take a hit out of the net profit or you're going to need to increase sales. So when you're making investments in the business, it is important to budget that out and to see what needs to change, what needs to happen in order to afford it. So I share that for a couple reasons. One, be wise, be proactive, plan things out, look at the numbers, go through and create a business budget. Oh, by the way, if you're listening to the recording of this podcast, if you're listening live, if you're listening to the video version after it went live, if you send an email to Bailey at remodelyourmarketing.com and you said, "Kyle was very generous during today's show and said that if we send you an email and ask for the lesson that he did, that was part of one of his paid courses on how to set up a business budget, that you would literally, Bailey, send me free access to that 90-minute kick butt, very detailed, specific, easy to follow lesson." Well, that was very kind. So if you do that, we will send it to you. So here we are on October 19th. Start thinking through next year, getting that budget figured out, going through all of your overhead expenses, thinking about your top line sales, etc., etc. And there's Bailey already saying, "Hey, people, shoot me an email and I'll hook you up with that." Excellent. So that was number one in today's 10 quick things from the past week. Chime. Okay, number two, mental health is as important as physical health. We talk a lot about the need to take care of our bodies. And I just had a few instances this past week of people in our lives, my wife and I's lives, people that thinking back over the last numerous months, clients of mine who have been struggling on the mental health side. And just I wanted to kind of put this out there and have it be a reminder that taking care of your mental health, going and seeing a counselor, going and seeing a psychologist is an extremely healthy, beneficial, wonderful thing to do. We need to. I was actually talking to my son about this a couple weeks ago. He's taking a AP college class. He's a sophomore and he's getting into psychology. He actually likes psychology quite a bit. And we were talking about the stigma around counseling And we were kind of thinking back to, well, I said, my parents, your grandparents' generation, and how they kind of looked at it, how the generation before kind of looked at it, how my generation is looking at it, and how his generation is looking at it. And mental health and the stigma around going and seeing a counselor or going to marriage counseling or going to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist oftentimes has been something that people kind of want to keep quiet. I think that's changing a little bit. And I've just seen here recently the effects of not taking care of mental health in somebody that's is kind of a friend and acquaintance of ours. And I've also seen several of my big, burly, tough guy remodelers who have realized that they need to take better care of their mental health and having the humility and wisdom to go and see somebody to talk through things they're struggling with. It's a beautiful thing. So that was number two on the 10 quick things from the past week. Mental health is as important as anything, as your physical health, etc. So that was number two. Number three. Number three says, have you talked to your CPA recently about your expected 2021 tax bill? Like I mentioned, we are into mid to late October. And let me put this bluntly. If you don't have a handle on what your tax liability is for this year, how would I say it bluntly but kindly? You need to fix that. There is no reason for you not to have a good handle on where your tax liability is at this juncture in the year. By knowing that, you can plan, you can save, you can make certain decisions that might have some wisdom behind it. Too many of us, too many of you, I'm not going to say us because I met with Mr. John Dawson, my CPA with Landini Reed and Dawson here in beautiful Michigan. I met with him last week because I'm kind of itching to know, do I need to save some more dollars? Am my tax liability kind of covered? What am I looking at? And it allowed me to feel comfortable and confident in running and managing my business. I could plan. It's not this unknown. It's not this, I'm not sure where this is going to come in. It's not going to be a surprise. So make sure that if you haven't anytime recently, and if you don't know what your tax liability is for this year, please, 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 that's three pleases, please schedule a meeting ASAP with your CPA. Get on top of that. Run a professional remodeling business. All right, that was number 10 things from this week. Number four, I was kind of curious for you guys, for those of you watching live, what's something you've learned this past week? Don't make me do all of the heavy lifting. What's something you've learned this past week? Bailey, can you shoot me a quick little text message? I'm seeing a little message pop up in StreamYard, the program we use, where it's looking like my connection might not be as strong as we would typically like it. And if that's the case, I might do a high wire act of changing over the Wi-Fi midstream here, or if it's coming through fine, we'll just leave it. All right, number five in 10 quick things from this past week. I helped one of my clients get their sales pipeline organized. Sales pipeline organized. Okay, Bailey just said it's working in community, but a little fuzzy. Dare we switch over? Nah, we're not going to. Audio is fine. All right. Marketing director says I wouldn't disrupt it, so we're not going to disrupt it. Number five is helped one of my clients get their sales pipeline organized. Now, sales has been something that has maybe been a bucket that's been a little bit easier in the business. Leads are flowing in. We have a lot of sales opportunities. We know that that can change abruptly. We know that we still, whether we've got a big, long backlog and lots of opportunities, we still want to walk people through our sales pipeline in a very professional and organized way. And one area of your business that sometimes gets overlooked and a little disorganized is your sales pipeline. So if that's you, if you just have a big stack of folders, or if you have a system that you're not using as far as a customer relationship management software, etc., do some work or set a goal of when you're going to get your sales pipeline organized. I do believe I did a little info on this here recently on the show, but just as a little reminder, some of the categories that I'll often encourage my clients to set up would be appointment to be set. Number one, appointment to be set. There are people in your sales pipeline that fit into that category. Two, appointment set slash working on ballpark estimate. Three, project design or project development agreement signed. There's people in that bucket. Number four, working on proposal. People that you're actively doing that. Number five, done proposal for, haven't signed yet. So these are people that you don't really have anything that you need to do. You're really waiting on them, and there's people in that bucket. The next one is jobs in progress, projects that you've signed that you haven't completed yet. And lastly, completed jobs. So keep it as simple as possible. You have these different categories for your sales pipeline, and that's just a reminder to get that organized. I'm in this new office. I'll be migrating here from my office away from the house here in the next month or two, and this is my first experience doing a show or being on Zoom in here. This will be kind of decorated nicely. I've got all kinds of tchotchke from the office that I brought in. My wife last night I was starting to set some things up in the different things, and she's like, "Please stop." It's something, but this is like a big block. I mean, this is the epitome of tchotchke, just random cool stuff. We got books, we got different things. This one says, "Be here now." That's a good reminder. Wherever you are, be there. Got some golf balls. This one's from Lilydale Brothers out in Connecticut. But one thing I'm noticing is that it's a beautiful day here in Michigan, and there's several people that have already walked by and kind of distracted me. This may be a problem. We'll see. I can close the curtains if necessary. All right, that was number 5. Number 6 on 10 quick things from the past week is a client that has a paid ad going on Indeed. I need to recruit. I need to find more help. Make sure you've got a nice prospect focused, recruiting focused on them, the ad focused on them, not what you need, but what you can offer them. Make sure you have that going on in your ads. But get a Facebook posting, maybe boost that. Get an Indeed posting going, and most likely put some paid advertising behind it. Make sure that you're talking to your network of people you know. Make sure you send a note out to all of your previous clients saying, "Hey, you guys know who we are, and you might know somebody. We're looking to hire a new lead carpenter." The answer to the recruiting challenge is that we need to be actively and consistently doing a lot of different things. But one of my clients has a paid ad going on Indeed, and it is working. He is generating some fine looking applicants, and he's encouraged. So that was something from the last week. Sometimes those ads work beautifully, sometimes they don't. But we need to be actively recruiting and doing things. Okay, so that was just a little thing from earlier in the week. Number 6, make sure you are doing things to recruit. Okay, just a little plug. We had a sign up earlier today for Remodelers AutoPilot. If you go to Remodelers with an S, AutoPilot.com, you'll see the details on this affordable, simple, effective, lovely program to help you stay in touch with all of your previous clients and prospects. It's a really nice little dollar to try, beautiful program you can try out. Give it a look. Remodelersautopilot.com. Maybe you'll sign up today and we'll have 2 signups in one day. That'd be wonderful. All right, now moving on to number 7 of 10 quick things from the past week. I reminded a remodeler not to feel beat up, defeated, overwhelmed when he compares himself to someone who's further along. I have found myself doing this when I compare myself to other coaches and colleagues. You have probably experienced this as well. The Facebook group is wonderful because we get all kinds of great pieces of feedback, advice. Everybody is kind, everybody's generous and giving. And I was talking to one of my clients here recently, and he was kind of lamenting a little bit of like, "Oh, this person's got it all figured out. Oh, this person's got everything kind of already locked and loaded. Why can't I be more like them?" And I reminded him of a few things. One, that the person he was talking about, one, he doesn't know everything about them. What if that person's marriage is a mess, but their business is amazing? Still have the same thoughts about it? What if that person is just wicked talented and amazing? We're just going to sit there and compare and feel bad about ourselves. What if, most likely, and this is what mostly came up here, is that person has been doing what you're doing for another 15 years. Look at how far you've come. No, you're not as dialed in and successful, whatever that means, as that person, but they've got another 15 years of working their butts off, of building brick by brick their business and systems and people. Cut yourself some slack. Comparison can be helpful in that it sometimes lights a fire under our butt, but a lot of times comparison can also just be deflating. So over the past week, I just was reflecting on a conversation I had, reminding that remodeler not to feel beat up and defeated and overwhelmed, but run your race, run your business, be encouraged that there's people that are willing to help you move along. Seek those people out, get coaching, get feedback, get help, but don't get down in the dumps because somebody is a little or a lot ahead of you. Keep working hard to get to that next level. And also consider where you've been. Where were you 2 years ago? Think about where you were 2 years ago compared to now and all the improvements and changes you made. So that is an item from this week that I wanted to share as well. Your day one versus their day 1000. Yeah. If you go to streamyard.com/Facebook, I can know who commented that. But yes, right, we're comparing ourselves to somebody that we're on day one and they're on day 1000. We're on day 2000, they're on day 10,000. So we got to cut ourselves some slack. It's important. Number 8, I personally felt the benefits of some strategic planning on the calendar, and this typically happens a little bit on Monday mornings. It's a little more laid back, but Bailey and I, when we did our 2021 planning session, we also scheduled some quarterly check-ins on, hey, let's actually check back in on the strategic plan to make sure we're actually implementing it. And we had a conversation yesterday where I was kind of like, yeah, I know I need to work on that. I'm not really inspired by it. And she kept asking me questions. I kept sharing some things. And by the end of that conversation, I went from kind of something I've been kind of avoiding the conversation. I'm making some changes to how I'm packaging up some of my services and some of my coaching. I've kind of been avoiding a little bit, but by talking through it and sharing some ideas, I started to get revved up. I started to get invigorated. I started to get some clarity and just some energy behind it. And I just felt what it's like when you receive good coaching, when you start talking about an on the business thing and get clear with what the next right thing to do is related to it. So I just wanted to share that, of making sure you're setting aside some time to think strategically, making sure that you have some people around you or that you have a coach to help you think strategically. I know a coach if you need some help, by the way. Not the best looking guy in the world, but he's pretty talented at this coaching stuff. So I felt the benefits of strategic planning. Make sure that you are spending some time on that. Yeah, this every car that drives by, like Snedeker Cleaning just drove by. I'm gonna have to close the blinds in here because every time I see something out of the peripheral view, and it's like a corner spot. So like there's windows here, and then there's windows over there. That's all the stuff that needs to go in there. It's a little distracting, folks. New environment, new place. I'll figure it out. Don't you worry. All right, we got two more. Two more items on the 10 things from this week. And feel free to add something that you've learned in this past week. Even if you're not watching this live, go ahead and still comment on there. We see them after the fact. But feel free to comment on something that you've learned this week, or if you just have a random question or a question at all for me, I'm going to have a couple minutes here at the end to go through that. So number 9 is Spec versus actual in job costing. Let me tell you a story. It's somebody that has been part of Remodelers community for a year or two. Reached out to me about 3 months ago, and he said, "Kyle, I've been following your work. I've been listening to your podcasts. I've been part of Remodelers community. It's lovely. It's wonderful, and I need help with my numbers. My sales are good. My client satisfaction is high. My sales process, while I need to dial in charging for design and development, overall it's working well. I do not have a handle on my numbers." And what we've started to do is, one, start to have his team members track their time more closely. That was a huge thing that was missing. And we have started just with very small things. We started with the project that he began about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and we just looked at what he was expecting his number of labor hours for his in-house team to be in the demo phase to what it actually was. And then there was another project he had where he was able to start to measure and look at what he was expecting his hours to be for this phase of the project and what his actual was. And just by starting that process, it's not sophisticated. It's not dialed in or automated much. It's kind of clunky still. But by starting to look at the expected versus actual, he has he's got light bulbs going off like crazy. He's got things that he's tweaking in his estimating. He's thinking about how he's managing projects better. He's considering sharing with his lead carpenters how much time that he quoted in a certain phase so they have a little bit of a goal or a number to go off of and see if they can kind of meet it or beat it. Ooh, I've never used that phrase anymore. I've never used that phrase before, but that's got a ring to it. Look, I'm going to share the labor hours with you so you can either meet it or beat it. And beat it, not like beat it like get out of here, but like beat it as in defeat it. Wow, there might be something there. I'll have to play around with that a little bit. Bailey, that's a blog post headline if you ever ask me. So this idea of expected versus actual in job costing. People, I'm not yelling, but hopefully you're hearing me talk passionately about it. You've heard me share this before. If you're not paying attention to your job costing, if you've kind of gotten away from it, if you're not looking at your expected versus actual, you need to prioritize that. You need to dig in and look closely at that. By doing that, you will be more profitable. You work too stinking hard not to make a really solid, great profit for all of the work and equity that you're putting into the business. Make sure you're paying attention to your expected versus actual. That is what's going to change your gross profit by 3, 4, 5, 6%. That's what's going to change your net profit by 3, 4, 5, 6%. It's going to be more dollars in your back pocket, but you need to take the time to look closely at that. Pretty please. All right. So that was number 9. Again, what we're doing here today is 10 quick things from the past week. Talked about the importance of business budgets and getting that ready for the upcoming year. Talked about some examples from mental health and how it's important as physical health. I challenged you to make sure that you have talked to your CPA recently and that you have a clear handle here at the end of October on where your expected 2021 tax bill is coming in at. That should not be a surprise. And let me smack it a little more. A professional remodeler will not make the excuse that, well, my numbers aren't organized enough to do that. Well, I need to catch up on my QuickBooks. I just don't have enough time to do that. Stop it. Get your crap together. Schedule a meeting with your CPA or vice versa. Sometimes that self-imposed deadline of scheduling a meeting with your CPA and the fact that it's scheduled for October 26th is a wonderful way to make sure that you get your crap organized before that meeting. By the way, self-imposed deadlines work beautifully in your sales process as well. You need to get that design finished. Go ahead and call them and book a meeting for Friday. You'll have it done by Friday. You need to get that estimate finished that you've been putting off, and you've told them, I'll get to you soon, which is that vague, when is soon? I don't know when soon is. Call that person, text that person and say, hey, can you meet next Monday at 2:00? I'm going to have your estimate ready for you, even though right now you're not even close. Self-imposed deadline. Number 4, I asked you guys what's something you learned this past week and didn't get squat from you. That's right. Number 5, helped one of my clients get their sales pipeline organized. I mentioned Remodelers AutoPilot. Love for you to sign up for that and give that a go. I was wondering if this is the first week that we've had trash pickup at the new house. And I was wondering if they had those. See, it's easily distracted. I just see everything outside my window. I was wondering if they have the trash bins where it doesn't even require a person anymore. Like the machine comes off and it grabs it. But they're kicking it old school. This guy came out. I was wondering if they're going to grab the boxes and stuff that I set outside. And oh, he did. It makes me happy. Okay. And now you guys know, and knowing is half the battle. Talked about the importance of recruiting. Put some paid advertising behind your Indeed. Put some advertising behind your Facebook site. How much is a new, awesome lead carpenter worth to you? I bet you if you put a number on it, it's not in the tens or it's not in the hundreds. It's worth thousands to you. Yet you spend $322 this year on recruiting. Don't be afraid to invest some more dollars behind recruiting. Number 7, I was reminding a remodeler not to feel beat up or defeated or overwhelmed when he compares himself or herself to someone who's further along. Run your race. Don't compare to the point of despair. Wow, these lines are just coming out like crazy. Don't compare to the point of despair. Maybe this new office is going to make me more of a poet. I don't know. We'll have to see. Number 8, felt the benefits of some strategic planning. Make sure you're setting aside some time for that. Number 9, I calmly and clearly articulated the importance of understanding and reviewing and measuring your expected versus actual and job costing. And then number 10, I reviewed with a client the plan he has for offloading a big chunk of his workload. If you have too many tasks, if you have too much going on, if you step 1, start tracking what you're doing throughout the days and throughout the week. Pay attention to what you're doing. You've heard maybe me talk about this idea and concept of $10 an hour work, $100 an hour work, and $1,000 an hour work. Pay attention to the low value stuff that you're doing, the $10 an hour work. It's eating up your time so you don't have as much time for the more valuable things that you need to be devoting your time to, the $100 and $1,000 work. Start by just paying attention and documenting, measuring a little bit. Get a little sheet out and start tracking what you're doing throughout the week. Step number 2, what are some things on that list after you've tracked that for a week or 2 weeks that you need to create a plan to offload? Pick one of those things. Who are you going to offload that to? Is it a virtual assistant? Is it a new hire? Is it somebody on your existing staff? You hear just the simple strategic thought there. Don't say, I'm overwhelmed and I've got too much work to be done. You say that so long as it's followed up by, I'm going to start paying attention to what I'm doing. I'm going to identify one thing that I can train somebody to do and hand off responsibility on, and I'm going to put a plan together to make that happen. And then take the next thing and do the same thing. And pretty soon, your workload and the amount of noise and chaos you have around you will start to dissipate, start to get a little quieter. So that was another thing from this week was I reviewed with a client his plan for offloading a big chunk of his workload, and it's going well. Cool. So that's all I have for you guys today, and I hope that was helpful. I hope it's cool to think there were some of you watching this live, and you heard one thing that might spark something for you to do today. That's cool. Some of you may have watched this after the fact, and also have been maybe inspired. Pick one thing. We don't lack ideas. We lack prioritizing those ideas, and we lack implementing those ideas. And I am more and more convinced the longer I coach that we need to focus our attention on fewer and fewer and fewer things. Get really specific with one thing you want to improve. Get very clear with what the next right thing is to do related to that. And go attack it with enthusiasm and get it done. Give yourself a deadline and get it done. You are so busy in the business that you can only really focus on one, maybe two on the business things. Just focus on one at a time, my folks. I just called you guys my folks, which kind of was a weird phrase, but you are my folks. Appreciate you paying attention. Appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you again very soon. Reach out anytime. I'm here for you guys. See ya.